Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Why Eagles Why. Now it's the playoff edition. Dave Bontempo, Pete Amato, and Bill Gelman saying hello as the Eagles get ready to face the New York Giants in the next playoff round. You know how we do the show, 4 quarters plus overtime. Please remember to hit like and subscribe to be notified about future videos, and we'll be talking about one of those videos later in our show. All right, as we break the huddle on Why Eagles Why, the Eagles trying to do something that's difficult, beat one team 3 times in a season, and not only that, but 3 times in about a month. The first time they played, Pete, 48-22, the Eagles blew the Giants out up at MetLife Stadium, but this one feels different.
Yeah, it does. I think it's because of the way the Giants looked against the Vikings and the way the Eagles ended their season. So that was before Jalen Hurts got hurt, before a couple other injuries like Lane Johnson and Maddox when we played the Giants. So I think we had a more complete team when we played them the first time. And we were running at an all-time high. I mean, so like I said, at the end of the season, things didn't, I mean, we won and we clinched, but I feel like the Eagles fans were left with a tiny little sour taste in their mouth because of the way it ended with the Jalen Hurts injury. We're not really sure if he's going to be 100%. If is Lane Johnson's going to be on, and the way they kind of, the coaching staff kind of handled the last 2 games of the season. They look like they were lost. I don't know if or some people say they were purposely cutting the playbook in half so nobody saw our secrets. I just don't think we've been a whole season of game. I don't think we had to clinch the first round pick. I mean, the first seed and the bye. I don't think they would have done that. So I just think Eagles fans are just nervous, and because of that, how the season ended, and then the Giants, how they looked against the Vikings. I don't think it makes a difference, though. I think the Eagles are a lot more talented than them. The one thing the Giants have going for them is their coach, though. He's a great coach, and he's shown it again and again with a team that shouldn't be here, and they're here.
Now, Bill, you and I both picked the Giants against the Vikings last week, and when this line was first announced, the Eagles were 8.5-point favorites. The Giants bettors jumped all over that, got it down to 7, and then it went up to 7.5. How do you assess the Giants right now?
The Giants are, I guess you can categorize them as one of those sleeper teams in the playoffs. They were, they're an okay team. They're not a great team. They're on offense other than Saquon Barkley. And they have a bunch of, who are these guys, especially a wide receiver? I mean, you're starting to hear the name Isaiah Hodgins a lot. He's like got a nice little touchdown streak going. You have a guy on the bench, Kenny Galladay, who's like doing nothing. But Isaiah Hodgins is someone to look out for. But compared to the Eagles, I still don't think the Giants are on the same level as the Eagles. But you got that rivalry factor, and you got that. Can you beat the same team 3 times in a matter of weeks? I discount the last time the 2 teams met because the Giants had nothing to play for, and the Eagles just had to do enough to win. That this is for all the marbles here.
We just saw the San Francisco 49ers able to beat the Seattle Seahawks 3 times in 1 year. The Eagles now will try to do that against the Giants and move on. We'll take a look at the game in the second quarter. Second quarter of Why Eagles Why. We like to talk about hitting like and subscribe to be notified about other videos. We've got one up right now that Dr. Bruce Grossinger, the Philly sports doc, shared his thoughts with us last week. Take a look at it. Fascinating, insightful stuff. And Pete, he told us last week that he thought Jalen Hurts would be 95% against the Giants, and that Lane Johnson, who has been out, will be 90% against the New York Giants. If that's true, how much do those numbers impact this game?
Oh, it's huge. If what he anticipates is correct or even close to being correct, it's a big deal. Of course, it's a big deal for Jalen Hurts, but let's just look at Lane Johnson for a second. Hurts, he's a right-handed thrower. He's gonna roll to the right a lot. That's Lane Johnson's side. If Hurts has the confidence to kind of roll out or just step on the pocket and know he can roll out at any time, he's going to play a lot different. He's going to play with a lot more confidence. He's going to look down the field longer. He's not going to look to scramble as quick. And that totally changes his game. Lane Johnson hasn't given up a sack in like 2.5 years, maybe close to three seasons now. So yeah, it's pretty insane to think about that. But even Lane at probably like 70%, he's probably not going to give up a sack, especially playing against this Giants defensive line. So huge. It's big, and I think one feeds off the other.
Usually a quarterback is the discussion topic. Can he come back? A wide receiver, a running back? Rarely is it a member of the offensive line, but the numbers come out this week that the Eagles are something like 9-21 since 2016 when Lane Johnson doesn't play.
Wow.
But he's playing. So that's good news for Eagles fans. And Bill, as you take a look at this game, what are the keys to victory for the Eagles?
I would say come up with a similar game plan to what you did the first time around when you played the Giants. I mean, they had 7 sacks in that game. They held Saquon Barkley to under 30 yards rushing. And the Eagles as an offense rushed for over 250 yards. And so it's just obviously you can't go with the exact same game plan because, the Giants see it coming now. They're going to adjust. I still think the Eagles are far superior with their defensive line. Hopefully their defensive backs show up this week and maybe get an interception or two. And, do what we've been saying all season is mix the run and the pass and, come prepared. These coaches have to have this team prepared because the Giants will come after them if the Eagles are off their game plan. They play sloppy like they did the last time around. But, you got to remember I'm not talking about the blowout game. I'm talking about the game, the end of the season where the Eagles were going up against second and third stringers. And they had a comfortable lead, and they let the Giants back in the game. When something works, stick with the formula. Just make the necessary adjustments. And, this is what we're playing for here. Getting to the NFC Championship game and hopefully making it back to the Super Bowl. First step along that journey is knocking out the Giants at home on Saturday night.
Let's talk about a key matchup. I'm going to throw this out to both of you guys. Weigh in on it. Pete, I'll go to you first with this. Last week, the Giants did a phenomenal job shutting down Justin Jefferson, the best receiver in the game. They held him to 47 yards, but that opened the door. And T.J. Hawkinson, the tight end from Minnesota, had 129 yards. Now, for both of you guys, think about this. You've got Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. So the Eagles have more deep threat receivers than the Vikings do. And now you have Dallas Goedert, who could be the Hawkinson of last week. So as you take a look at what happened last week with the Giants and Vikings, if you had to pick, who do you think among this trio of Eagles has the big day or the chance for the big day against the Giants? Pete, I'll go to you first on this.
I'm going to have to go with Devontae Smith because you saw what the Giants did to the Vikings. They put their best guy on their best guy, and they double teamed them with a lot of help over the top, which made room for their tight end and other receivers. But the Vikings don't have a number 2 that compares to Devontae Smith, so they had to go to their tight end, who's a good tight end. I know our tight end is even better, but Devontae Smith is just a great player. He's a great route runner. He's fast, he's smart, and he doesn't drop the ball. So I think he's going to have a big game. I still think A.J. Brown's going to have a good game, but if they're making it impossible for AJ Brown to get open, that means one of these other guys has to be open. And then it comes down to if the coaching staff can put a game plan together that that plays into the Eagles' strengths and plays into the Giants' weaknesses.
I think that's a big part of this game. Bill, how do you see that that situation?
I agree with Pete. And Devontae Smith is definitely going to be big. I think Dallas Goedert is someone to watch. But then we also have the giant killer, little Boston Scott.
Right.
They don't use him enough.
No, they don't. And, maybe you put a few Boston Scott plays in there this week to see if he, scores another touchdown against these Giants. And
they don't even use our number one running back enough. So
no, I don't think they use the running game. I think the running game's a little off.
Yeah.
And because they have the talent.
Yeah, they do. I mean, the average Miles Sanders, he has a great average number. I mean, he has one of the best seasons he has. Maybe they just don't want to give him the ball too much because then they know they're going to have to pay him if they have to. And the NFL doesn't really pay running backs, especially on their second contract.
What happened to the swing pass? I mean, you look at Boston Scott, you get images of Darren Sproles. I've been waiting for that. So we'll see if it shows up this week. We'll talk more about this game and then the other game Eagles fans will be watching in the third quarter. Third quarter of Why Eagles, why? Well, Eagles, Giants, and then Cowboys, 49ers. The winners of those two games meet, and if it is the Eagles, they will host whichever team that is. A lot of Eagles fans want it to be the Cowboys. Pete wants it to be the Cockroaches. But before they get to that, they have to finish business this week. Pete, your final thoughts on the Eagles and what's on your mind prior to this game?
What's on my mind basically been the kind of thing that's kind of kept me from having 100% confidence in this team throughout the season, and that's the coaching. I'm still not sold on this coaching staff. Let's forget about Jonathan Gannon altogether. Let's just stick with the offense. We saw them put head-scratching game plans together against teams that aren't that good and have glaring weaknesses. And it just doesn't seem like they were prepared for a few games this season. I just hope that they attack the Giants' weaknesses, and we know their weaknesses. Miles Sanders, when we beat him 48-22, he ran for 144 yards and 2 touchdowns. We have to rely more on the run game, and I don't care if the run game isn't the sexiest. I know they're always saying the Eagles, we got to win. So they're going to have to rely on the run game, especially early, and stick with it, and let our players use their talent. Don't hold them back. I mean, that's one thing that gets me nervous about this coaching staff. I feel like I feel like sometimes they don't play to our players' strengths, and because they want to force some kind of game plan that they already had in mind on this team. And I just feel like they need to do what works and adjust if they have to.
And watch that play off the left side. Danny Dimes loves to run there. Eagles fans know that all too well. Some of his biggest runs in his career have come off the left side against the Eagles. Well, the winner of this game will face the winner of the Cowboys-Niners game. Bill, people in Philadelphia already saying, oh, we're going to get our Cowboys matchup. But what do you think of this matchup, Cowboys and 49ers? First thing that comes to mind for you.
One is the 49ers are still the hottest team in football. They've won 11 games in a row, and you can't discount that at all. The Cowboys, constantly on the show, we're talking about how they are the all-time choke artists. Well, Dak Prescott had a career game last night. I think he threw for 4 touchdowns, ran for another, over 300 yards passing, and pretty much, the Buccaneers were outclassed last night. And it's, you rarely say that with a Tom Brady team, but clearly the Cowboys were the better team, and I will give them their respect when they earn it, and they clearly earned it last night. I just think San Francisco is the hottest team in the league right now, and Cowboys have to go out to San Francisco. So, if the Cowboys are managed not to shoot themselves in the foot for a second week in a row, which is, I don't think we've seen that all season.
No.
So
Right.
I'm still leaning towards San Francisco in that one, but the Cowboys are, they did show up last night. So it's, I'm not saying it's 100% San Francisco is going to be the team the Eagles face, but it's, I'm still leaning towards that. It's going to be San Francisco, not the Cowboys.
Gamblers agreeing with you, Bill. Right after the 31-14 victory by the Cowboys, the line opened at 4.5. It was 4 within a half an hour. This morning it was 3.5. So the Cowboys money is showing up. I think that line stays around 3.5. Pete, Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, has been quite a find for the 49ers. I think one of the biggest things for him is that he just fits into the system. They don't ask him to do too much. He can drop the ball off to McCaffrey, and they have a ball control offense. Your first thoughts when you look at the Cowboys and the 49ers?
Yeah, I agree with you. He does fit into the system. And people say this system quarterback is like a negative thing. I don't think it is. Garoppolo is a system quarterback, and the guy's been all around the playoffs in championship games since he joined the league. So I think, he fits in the system. He doesn't make big mistakes, and he gives his players a chance to win by letting his players do what they do best. So this game is probably going to come down to mistakes. Who makes that mistake? You can never analyze or predict turnovers, right? So that's why this game's going to be tough to predict. Are we going to see the Dak that we saw against Tampa Bay, who just looked he looked on point? He wasn't making big mistakes. He wasn't making stupid throws. He wasn't intercepting the ball. Or we're going to see the Dak that we've seen kind of all season, and who's just trying to force every ball and just trying to do too much. So I think it's going to come down to turnovers. It's going to come down to mistakes, penalties. And one team has had trouble with that most of the season. That's the Cowboys, and one team really hasn't. So I know the money is telling me to go with the Niners, but this is the playoffs. I think the Cowboys pull this one out, to be honest. I mean, maybe because I hope they do. So I want to play them. I just imagine an NFC championship game to go to Super Bowl against Eagles, Dallas Cowboys. It's just it would be like a storybook, feature. You know what I mean? So, but I do think if Dak doesn't throw a pick all game, the Cowboys win.
Well, to that point you're talking about, when they were playing very well, they got a lot of players back, offensively and defensively, just before the Tampa Bay game, and those healthy guys had an impact, it seems, on that game. Dalton Schultz, we've talked about him on the show. I love him as the tight end for the Cowboys. He had 2 touchdowns, the tight end. They had abandoned the tight end for a little while. Yes. So that's going to be a fascinating game, I think, because people are waiting for Brock Purdy to play like a rookie. Maybe he doesn't if he can keep dumping the ball off. Somebody will figure out a way to take some of these big players out of it. And if it's not the Cowboys, maybe it will be the Eagles. So that's a good overview as to what's at stake immediately for the Eagles. In the fourth quarter, we'll take a look around the rest of the playoffs. Fourth quarter of Why Eagles Why. Dave Bontempo, Bill Gelman, and Pete Amato with you. Well, in Philadelphia, the AFC title picture is also very big, because guess what we have? We have Dougy P and we have Andy Reid as Jacksonville visits Kansas City. The original line is 8.5 points. Kansas City favored. Teed up for you, Bill. Go ahead. How do you see this one?
I mean, I hate to repeat from last week because it ended up backfiring. I think Kansas City, excuse me. I think Jacksonville is still a very young team, inexperienced. You're going up against Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid combination. That's always like one of the top teams in the AFC. But Dougy P learned under Andy Reid's tutelage. And after last week, when the Jacksonville was trailing, I believe 27-0, they came back to win that game. So I still see Kansas City winning this one, and they should win it. I wouldn't be surprised if they win it by 10 points or more. But I'm not 100% sure Jacksonville doesn't have another upset in it, because it's the playoffs. Anything can happen.
As we saw last week, a couple teams nearly spit the bit. Buffalo nearly spit the bit. Big favorite against Miami, almost lost. Even San Francisco was trailing Seattle in the third quarter, and Cincinnati with an unbelievable defensive play, turning around that game against the Baltimore Ravens. Bill, we'll say it here that you said it on the show last week. A last-second field goal could decide that Jacksonville game, and that's exactly what it was. And Pete,
I picked the wrong side though.
Well, but you said a last-second field goal, and Pete, you went lone wolf and picked Jacksonville. You swept the AFC. My unofficial tally was we all went 4-2 with our games last week. So, but at halftime, Bill, I was feeling pretty good about our pick, I must say. Even though I went and bet Jacksonville, I was pretty happy with what we had said.
I thought it was I stopped watching.
Now, Pete, how do you see Dougy P and Andy Reid?
I just want it to be an entertaining game. I'm going to root for the Jags. I'm a big Doug Peterson fan. I didn't agree with his firing. I still don't. I wouldn't take it back because of what the Eagles have been through, but it's going to be tough. It's good. I mean, he's going against, just like Bill said, he's an inexperienced young team going against the exact opposite. I mean, the Chiefs have been here probably more than anybody else in the AFC the last few years. Andy Reid has been here, and it's basically, can the student beat the master? And I think if they keep the game close, I mean, you just can't let Mahomes and company have one of their games where they scored 30 points in the first half. If that happens, it's over. If the Jags can keep it close, maybe be down by 6, 7, 8 points in halftime, I think they might have a chance, because it's a very scrappy team. It is a young team, and their quarterback, he's a good. I mean, I know he threw threw 4 picks the other game. They still end up winning. Imagine if he threw 2 of those picks. I mean, so we'll see what happens. I'm rooting for the Jags. I don't know I don't know what the line is right now, but
8.5 as we are recording.
8.5
as we are recording.
I think if it's 8.5, I would probably. I would take the Jags. I would take the points here.
All right, some fun with numbers. We believe it was the first time last week with the Chargers game that a team had a edge of 5 in the turnover ratio and lost. Speaking of all those picks. And also that was the third biggest playoff comeback in NFL history. The second biggest involved the Chiefs against the Colts. They had a 28-point lead back in, I think it was 2014. So when it's crazy time, you just never know. That's the Jacksonville, Kansas City game. Jacksonville always able to come back in the fourth quarter. The other game, Buffalo and Cincinnati, opened up at Cincinnati plus 3.5. Buffalo bettors were all over that, and that line went up to 5 as we are recording. So Buffalo, a 5-point favorite. 2 teams who labored much more than people thought they would before they won last week. Bill, I'll throw to you first. What do you think of this matchup? What do you think of where these teams are?
Honestly, I was pretty confident Buffalo when the playoffs started. But they really struggled against a Miami team that didn't have Tua Tagovailoa, however you got Tua. You guys can correct me if I'm way off. And, and the game was in Buffalo, and it should have been a lot. I saw it being a blowout coming into the game. Obviously, I was wrong there, and Cincinnati was in this position before. They have some unfinished business. The young talent they have with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and all those other guys. They have a year of playoff experience under their belt. And I think that fumble return for a touchdown might be the play of the postseason this year, even including the Super Bowl. I mean, that, to see a lineman run all the way down the field and score a touchdown and end up being a difference maker in the game. So I just think, unless Buffalo learns from their mistakes, I think this is Cincinnati's going to pull an upset here.
It's ripe for that. If you have not seen that play, go back. It's 17-17. Tyler Huntley is leaping up in what looks like one of those touchdowns where you just want to get the ball over the plane. He tries to do that, but he's a little short. It gets batted away right to a Bengal, and he lumbers down the field. Also, I'm a little surprised. They could have called a block in the back against a Bengal on Mark Andrews, which they did not. But nonetheless, as Bill suggested, and I agree, the play of the playoffs thus far. Pete, when you look at that Buffalo-Cincinnati game, what comes to mind for you?
I like Cincinnati. I like their team. I always say that because they made me a lot of money last year. I bet on them early because I feel like people forgot about Burrow last year, and they were underdogs in a lot of the first half games, which is so I kind of been following them. I wanted Cincinnati to win, but I think Buffalo is just too talented. I think they're not going to let a game get away from them again like they did this week. I think they're going to come in more ready than ever, and I think they're going to win. So the 5 points, I would give the 5 points and take Buffalo in this game.
All right. When we go to our overtime segment, our fearless predictions, which 4 teams will be left when we're here next week? It's the overtime segment of Why Eagles Why. Which 4 teams will be here next week? I say Eagles, Niners, Chiefs, and Bengals. Go ahead, Pete. Which 4?
I'm going with Eagles, Cowboys, Jags, and Bills.
All right. Couple of upsets from Pete and very live dogs. How about you, Bill?
I think I'm going to go 100% with you, Dave. Eagles, 49ers, Bengals, and Chiefs.
All right. We'll see how we did next week. I like Pete's gutsy calls because they are some live dogs. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us on Why Eagles Why. Please remember to hit like and subscribe to be notified about future videos, and watch the one with Dr. Grossinger talking about the Eagles this week. For Pete Amato and for Bill Gelman, this is Dave Bontempo saying so long, everybody. We'll see you next time on Why Eagles Why.